So back to the OpenArm, we have spent a little bit of time with the, just the basics of the OpenArm. We have talked about Move It in their repo that they've already set up. I've changed some of the policies that are running, so you can see that. That's also there. We have teleoperation running with both keyboard teleop space mouse as well as human teleop from the media pipe. So I think that was the last video, might have been. We also have this ROS2 pipeline, which I'm also finished with, that I'll make a video soon about running the Jetson Thor, and with a new update that happened with Isaac ROS that supports the Jetson Thor. Just finished that. I will probably make a video when it's more solid. Right here, what we're going to talk about is enabling the camera system, as well as starting to connect with the cameras, collect some video that will be used in demonstrations using using Groot. So Groot, as we've seen before, it's not new, is Nvidia's whole body controller. Eventually, right now it's upper body, and I think we've seen, for instance, LeRobot. So here's LeRobot, and LeRobot. If you go to Hugging Face blog, LeRobot release 4.0, it kind of goes through the entirety of simulation pipeline. What I like about this is, it's simulator agnostic, but you can bring your own simulator. So I prefer to use Isaac Sim and Isaac Lab, and I feel like it's a very just robust set of tools. LeRobot has its own tools, but these are the ones I like to use. You can also pick your own. So as far as these policies go, you can do multi-GPU training now using LeRobot. You've always been able to do that with Isaac Lab. And as you can see, this is and I don't know why the camera's upside down on this one, but you can see you can do things like passing the cube back and forth, if that's what you trained it for, but you can do all kinds of other stuff. And then, as you know, Pi 0.6 has come out, and Pi 0.6 it's got a reinforcement learning driven pipeline for its action model. So that's coming soon. Once I have access to Pi 0.6, I'll make a video about that. But I have Pi 0.5 running, and also have Groot in 1.5, and also have Gemini. So that's probably one of my next videos to talk about how to use Gemini to collect data. This time I'm going to talk about using Isaac Gr00t to collect data, and where we're going to collect that data from is from our existing OpenArm robot. Here's the OpenArm again. I'll let that play for a second. Yeah, pretty cool arm. I have two of them here in my office that I've just reassembled. I had to take them apart. It was kind of an annoying task, but as you can see here, it's very robust. The 7 degrees of freedom on a camera here. You can also put cameras in the wrist, and that's what I did. And you'll see when I run, there's so much, and this one's also showing teleoperation. Okay, it's kind of annoying sound, so I'll stop that. Here's teleoperation, and so you can build up the box here. The camera is able to see what's going on in the scene. I actually put wrist cameras on mine, and then from there, now the next time that we're doing this process, we can fine-tune Groot to do this for us, or another model. We can stick with the models that are available with LeRobot, or we can deal with other models. So what I've done is, in my repo, I have several tools. So the first thing you'll see going to my repo, and then there's a bunch of episodes, and I'm going to talk about that briefly. But what I've set up is I have Isaac Lab running. I have LeRobot also included here, Move It, and a bunch of other things. What you can see here is here's a epoch. You can see that this is an overhead view sitting still first, and the camera view, which is you can see the little bit of the gripper in this one. The left one should look identical almost. There you go. So you can see a little bit of the gripper. Probably going to angle that down just a little bit more so you can see a little bit more of the gripper. That's the point of that. But if you go later on in the episodes, steps, this is step 80, the arm has already moved forward. So let's go back to maybe step 40. Oh, no, it moves pretty quick. So let's go to, there we go. It's already moved at step 10. So from 0 to 10, we've already got movement. So I'm going to show this in the running simulator in a second. What you can see here, this camera view is not the camera view that the robot has. This is an overhead camera view. So when I go to train, I'm actually going to need to move that camera view down above the scene to where the actual robot camera is, or it's going to be completely useless to us in the real world, because you want to be able to use that real world data in order to influence the fine-tuned Groot model. So before I collect a bunch of data, I'm going to make sure these cameras are correct. I did a little bit of checking to make sure the cameras are right. So if you go down to like step, later on, you can see the wrist there, and the left wrist isn't moving. But here's the right wrist, and that's the most interesting one, because I've placed the cube there, and I want the gripper to be able to go up next to the cube and then close on the cube. So the only way to do that is if the grippers can see this particular thing. Okay, so we know that happens. Great. We're going to see it live in a second. And the only other thing that I've done here is we built out a little teleop pipeline so that I can use my own body to collect the data. Sometimes, especially using the keyboard can be quite tedious, even though there's a pipeline for that. I've also, you can see here, started to work in Cosmos. That is probably for like 3 or 4 videos from now. You can see Cosmos, you can see the teleop pipeline that's already here. We've already talked about these things. I think the OpenArm was built on Humble, so I moved it. I recompiled this for Jazzy, and now that we have the Thor, I've also built up a Thor pipeline that's a little bit, it's pretty robust. Working on that a bit more, but let's just end off this video with a little demo of what it does today. This is only one episode. Remember, it's not training, it's just collecting training data. So we're gonna run this. I'm gonna pause the simulator so it can run. It's running this little guy, which is I'm going to run right now. Again, I continue to use the Gemini 3.0 Pro, and I use also ChatGPT's 5.1, GPT 5.1. The codex is pretty good. Used to use some of these others, but they just kind of don't stand up to Gemini 3, and definitely not Claude 5.1 codex. So let's run this. I'm also going to pause the recording so that we get a little bit of freeze when this is starting, because I'm on my RTX 5090. So I'm going to pause the recording, and you'll see the simulator start to run when we come back. So here we go. Simulator starts to run. I'm going to try to do this fast enough so that we can see the arm move. It's behind the settings thing, but there it is. The arm moved, and it moved up. You can see there's the cube. It needs to actually keep moving up toward the cube. It's almost there. Good. So we're getting mostly there. So this is using Groot. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how we get to the point of Groot, but let me just show you the camera perspective so we can see what's going on here. So it's taking images, and we're going to go back and show exactly what it's seeing, but that's the overhead camera. There's also the left wrist camera, Here we go. That's what the left wrist is seeing, pretty much nothing. And then the right wrist camera, which is more interesting, is, I don't know why, I zoomed out and then things went awry. But let's put it back to perspective for a second and then we'll zoom back out again. So here's the perspective, and we're dealing with the right wrist camera. And I don't know why when I zoomed out it just went batty, but yeah, interesting. Anyway, the left wrist camera still seems to be fine, but it's not letting me zoom. Oh man. Anyway, so that's a little bit annoying, but let's go back to just a perspective. And the images will show all of this, but you can see below just barely here that there's a little bit of gripper action that's in these steps. It goes through 700 steps, but you don't need to, because at some point very quickly it gets to the point of that being close to where the cube is, and then once it's close to where the cube is, then we want to execute closing the gripper. And you can see here it did, and this is left and right of the right gripper, by the way. You can see the gripper trying to close, and it doesn't quite get there. That's a quick fix, so nothing crazy to fix that. But anyway, so back to the data, or actually, let's just talk about quickly the Groot setup. So a couple things that I did here. I did change the record demos a little bit to kind of work the way I want it to work. So there's the keyboard, which is standard for record demos. I also added in this media pipeline here. And then here you can choose to which hand is going to be the dominant hand and which one you actually want to try to grab the cube with. And this is just using Groot to say something very simple like grab the cube. It's not and then I have this evaluation step, which is going to get, well, maybe let's not have all this garbage. Let's get that out of the way, and let's close some of this so it's a little bit simpler to look at. Okay. And so you can see the changes I made to Isaac Sim. They're pretty small. But so I have this Groot pipeline. It's from pre-trained. I load the model, the policy, and then after we load the policy, we observe the imagery that's coming in, and then once we've observed the imagery, then we create an action. Right now it's pretty kind of boring because I'm just getting the cameras, and once I get the cameras and I make the observation, then I'm going to say, okay, move to that location. So you can see here it starts the evaluation here, and tries to move itself over to where the position of the box is, which is, it's doing that. That's great. And then we're done. So we haven't really talked about the gripper much here, and I'm starting to just work on that. Just getting the gripper to close, and so the gripper is now closing, and I can switch back and forth between, I can use Groot to get me to the point where I need to be, and then I can close the gripper manually if I want to in the real world, or I can just rely on Groot the entirety of the process. So that's what I'm going to do, is rely on Groot, and then with my Gemini pipeline, it's the same thing. It kind of relies on Gemini. It says, all right, close the gripper using chunking actions, which is the way Gemini's robotics API works. So there we go. That's all I want to show for today. Keep this relatively short. I finally got the live robot going, and I tend to not want to mess with the live robot until I'm sure about jitteriness of my things that are happening in the simulator world. But the next step for me would be to pass these actions back to the live robot using ROS. And I already have that already built up. That pipeline's been built for a long time. But you can see here, episode 0 is only episode 0 ever. And then, so this is the left and right camera. I did something to it by the time you get to this many steps. But if you look back here, this is what you should see. The left camera never ever moves. The right camera moves up to where the cube is. And it's just below the cube, and we need to just raise up a little bit and then it'll close. So there's a little bit of work to do to make that happen. Not far to get this thing going. But then we want to do two-handed actions, and that'll be the next thing, is passing things back and forth, and then finally manipulation. And we're just in this particular case with just evaluating Groot for this particular task. All we're doing is basically saying move to the position of the cube. We're not doing anything else like having it close on the cube or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, I think this is good enough. And again, if you wanted to dive a little bit deeper into Groot, where I would suggest you go is to that Hugging Face LeRobot kind of tutorial, and then it kind of goes on across the things that you could do very simply. And what I've done is I just I can change the task here. So this is the task, but if I want grasp cube, but I can change this task and say wave high, and it will do that same task. And so there we go. I think that's good enough as a start, and we'll talk to you soon.